Buddy Bucky Brooks joins us now after a crazy and wild draft. Bucky, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I am good. How's everything with you, Frank?
We are good, and Hayes and I were just talking about it. I don't know. I don't know that I can remember a first-round pick, maybe Baselli, that I am this confident will be this good. Now, look, it's the second overall pick. I ought to be this confident. I watched more and more tape of Travis Hunter. What do you think about him? Bucky, what makes him so special?
I think first we got to give it context. So when you take someone top one, top two, top three, you literally should envision them being a gold jacket player. Tony Baselli is the embodiment of what a top pick should be. He played well. He earned all kinds of accolades and finished up being a Hall of Famer. Travis Hunter is expected to be that kind of player, and everything that he exudes makes everyone around him believe that he can be that kind of player. From his personality to the work ethic to the play on the field, he is everything that you want in a top pick. And when you watch him, and I think it's really important because, Frank, I don't know if you noticed, he's the first player to ever win the Heisman Trophy and to be a first-team all-academic team member.
Wow.
So what you're talking about is someone who is an elite player who is also elite in other areas of his life. And so when he talks about wanting to be the best in everything, that is going to come out in his play. It also is going to come out in everybody else's play, which is why the pick was so fascinating going back to when James Gladstone took over. And he talked about the ecosystem is one where people will change the culture by simply being themselves. When you have a Travis Hunter who wants to be elite in everything, when you add a bunch of those guys, the culture becomes elite on its own.
Bucky, what will the mental challenge be for Travis if he is able to handle 800 snaps on offense, 700 snaps on defense, something like that? He played 1,552 snaps last year in college. But from a mental standpoint, what is the challenge that he will have to overcome, and how do you think he'll go about that?
Well, the challenge, whenever you take on the task that he's taken on, jack of all trades, master of none. So what the coaching staff and the entire organizational structure has to be, how can we allow him to be great in one area while he's working at another area? So what's the fastest way for him to be great? It appears that they're going to put him on offense first because that's the easiest way for him to have the biggest impact. He can touch the ball 7-8 times a game, and we have seen when he touches the ball multiple times, something big is going to happen for the offense. Then on defense is, hey, how can we give him a small package that grows as he gets more comfortable in his primary job, that he can still make an impact in his secondary job? And then is he comfortable enough from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint to be able to do both? Obviously, we talked about his academic honors. I don't think learning the playbook is going to be hard for him. I think the biggest thing is managing his body in terms of like competitive stamina. He wants to go hard all the time. And then managing, you don't want to put too much on his plate where middle of the season he hits a wall that he can't come back from. But I will say what makes him different than anybody else who has tried to take on this challenge, that's all he has ever done. He's played two ways, Little League, Middle League, Pop Warner, high school, college. He never stopped being a two-way player. No one else has done that. People have gone one way in college and try and come back and be a two-way player in the pros. No one has said, no, this is what I do. So I'm more willing to bank on he's going to do what he's always done, and he's going to be special in both areas.
Let me ask you this, and I agree with you. He's accustomed to doing both, but you played both. You in your college and pro career, you were a receiver and a cornerback, so you know both positions. What's the difference in, I don't know, Bucky, time in the classroom, time in meetings? Do the receivers spend more time in meetings than the DBs? Less time? Is there more? You would think there's more to learn on offense. I may be wrong there, but so how is it different?
Look, there's definitely more volume to learn on offense, right? Like with all the plays, we've seen it, man. Guys take 125 to 150 plays on the call sheet into a game, which is a lot. I would say that it's excessive, but he has to learn all of that on offense and where it fits. And a lot of times it's like crossover, same route, same concept, different formation with different motion and stuff. So once he understands the concept, it's easy because it's conceptual learning. defensively, the thing about it, that if I'm Liam Cohen, what I'm challenging the defense to do is, okay, how can we get him on the field in third down first?
Right.
Let's just create a third down package for him to be the nickel or the dime where he comes in and does that role. I can tell you that role is an easier role. As a guy who was a converted defensive back, when I played for Dick Duran, the late Dick Duran in Jacksonville, he's like, hey, man, I'm just going to make it easy for you. You're just going to be the dime. So all you have to worry about is you cover the tight end, you play this role in this zone, that's it. And then it grows from there. I think that's the easiest way for Travis to kind of master it. But let's be honest, man. Talent is talent. And it's going to be hard when he makes a play on defense to be like, yeah, we want to keep him there. Because what's going to happen, he's going to make some plays, and before you know it, he's going to be out there all the time just because he's that good.
What kind of a combo do you think Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter can form here pretty quickly for the Jaguars?
I think a very special combo. And the reason why I love this pick is everything that you're doing offensively is designed to make the game easier for Trevor Lawrence. So let's be honest about Trevor. Trevor has shown flashes of being the elite player that we wanted to be when he was the number one pick, but he needs others to help him do what he does well. What the Jaguars have done is they've added 2 elite ball catchers. And when I mean ball catchers, that hey, when you throw it in the vicinity, they're going to go get it. We saw that last year with Brian Thomas Jr. There have been times where I've heard Frank, I'm on the sideline, Frank would be like, oh, my God, how do you make that catch?
Right.
Particularly with the game on a downfield thing. I was like, there's no way he's going to get it. And before you know it, he does. Travis offers the same thing. We've seen him do it time and time again at Colorado on red zone throws or whatever, where all of a sudden the strike zone is big. It went from being from chin to belt to now chin to ankle because these guys can catch everything. That makes it so easy for Trevor. The other thing, we've seen these guys turn short passes into big games. So rather than always thinking about for us to get explosive plays, it has to be down the field. You may see Trevor raise up 5 to 8 times a game and just pop out bubble screens to these guys because they can make defenders miss and turn these at-the-line passes into 10 to 15-yard games. That helps his completion percentage and his efficiency, and overall it helps the offense.
So, Bucky, when from a standpoint of offensive volume, we'll get to defense in a minute, but standpoint of offensive volume, Brian Thomas Jr. was essentially on the field every play except when they were going to run it in short yardage. When they went to that set where they'd bring in Tim Jones as the wide receiver and 3 tight ends, and that's when he would get his blows, but he didn't get many. Do you expect the same thing with Travis Hunter, that other than third and a yard and a half where they go heavy, that he's going to be in the game just about all the time like Brian Thomas Jr. is?
So here's the beautiful thing about Liam Cohen and what they can do offensively. So there are ways where you can change up. You can run the same formation but change up the personnel grouping while keeping the same personnel package on the field. For instance, we're going to say that Gabe Davis is a big part of the offense. So now you have Gabe Davis, Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., and you also have Parker Washington as the other. So what you can do is you can use Parker Washington to spell Brian Thomas Jr. and reconfigure the thing. You can use Parker Washington to spell Travis Hunter and keep them on the field. So in my mind, I'm always going to at least have one of our special players on the field, Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. So you can always give them a blow. But I think it's how much can he handle? What does the GPS look like at the end of the week? Does he seem like he's fading at the end of the games? If he's not, man, I'm going to give him as much as he can handle, and then we can dial it back as he needs us to dial it back.
Bucky, what stood out to you beyond the Travis Hunter selection for the Jags?
So I listened to the presser yesterday when Liam and James were talking after the draft was all wrapped up, and I finally had a chance to sit down and listen. And early on when James, I'm going to go back to the comment where they talked about the ecosystem changing just because of the kind of guys that you brought in. And I thought it was interesting that he brought up Jack Kaiser as an example. Jack Kaiser goes to the Senior Bowl, does all the stuff through the practice week. They get to game day. All of these guys opt out. Kaiser voluntarily goes to play safety, even though he's a linebacker and it can make him look bad. That's what we talked about. If you want a team that plays hard, you have to bring in guys that play hard. If you have a team where you want to be a hard-working team, you have to bring in guys that want to work hard on their own. What the Jags have done, because everybody that they brought in went through the entire process. They didn't opt out of games. They didn't opt out the combine, didn't opt out of workout. To me, that suggests that everybody wants to work. They love ball. They're about it. And so it's one thing to say that you love ball, It's another thing when your actions back that up.
Yeah.
The Jaguars brought in a bunch of people that are like that, and what that does, that puts peer pressure on others. Because if you don't love it like we love it, you're going to find your way out because you can't keep up with the guys that do. So to me, quietly, they've changed the culture from inside out without saying a whole lot about, oh, our culture is this. They don't have to say it. They're living it because the guys that they brought in breathe it.
Yeah, we talked about it at the top of the program. It seems like all these, they love to use the phrase love ball. That's what, not love football, not love ball. So you're right about that. Here's what I think. In my opinion, I told Hayes this a minute ago, Bucky, I think all 9 draft picks are going to make the team. And I think other than Monheim, who's a center, my guess will be a healthy scratch if he makes the team because they've got centers ahead of him. They've got veteran offensive linemen. They were very active in free agency. Man, I think the other 8 are all going to affect the game. And now, look, maybe Raekwon Lane just affects the game as a gunner. I think it's one of the reasons they got him. Maybe Jalen McLeod is the 4th edge, and maybe if Agba plays well, they won't need him very much. But I get the sense that all these guys are going to be on the team and affect the games even in their first year. Do you see it that way?
I 100% see it that way. Whenever a new coach and new general manager front office comes in, they typically flip the roster in some way to make sure that they put their own kind of imprint on how the team is going to go about their business. But then when you look at the players that came in, all of these guys bring special value. Caleb Ranstraw, I'm going to tell you right now, man, he's an absolute baller. When you think about what they want to do on the end, what I thought about is like, man, I could see this guy playing a nickel or whatever role, but then I could see Travis Hunter coming on the field and them being interchangeable parts in terms of how they reconfigure the secondary. Then I think about Ray Lane coming from Navy and all the things that he does as a special teamer. But did you know that he also led all safeties in terms of what we call turnover production? When you add up interceptions, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, he's at the top of the list. So when you talk about, hey, we want our defense to take the ball away, you got to bring in guys that take the ball away. So I just think that this class, without being overly excited, because we always get excited when new stuff comes in, but to me, the action, the players line up to what they say. I'm really excited to see this version of the Jaguars compete to put the best 53 on the field.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.